Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Hailey podcast. Today's episode is an important one, and I actually wrote a decent amount of notes for it because there are so many things that I want to touch on in today's episode that weigh heavy on my heart. And I wanted to provide this disclaimer and this trigger warning in the beginning of the episode that we are going to be talking today about domestic violence and abuse. It is definitely a triggering topic to many people, but I do think it's an important one to touch on. And as someone who not only has endured abuse in my own life, I also know a large amount of women who have experienced domestic violence in their life. It's an alarming number. These are important conversations to have because there are ways to discuss them without causing so much strife and argument. I'm noticing online because of the stuff that's surfacing about Cassie and Diddy, I really see a lot of unproductive conversations being had. And being that my platform is positive and empowering, I really want today's episode to be nothing different. It is going to be really about the rise of women who have endured violence at the hands of men and how to advocate for yourself and to just be more discerning with how you move through life. And we're going to get into all of these conversations today and why I think that they are important to touch on. Now, if you guys don't already know this, there has been a video that has surfaced of Diddy putting his hands on Cassie. This was a video I believe to have been taken many years back. And when Cassie's lawsuit first came out, which I was very much involved in. I looked through it. I read all of the pages that were written by the lawyer of what she had gone through at the hands of Diddy in her 10-year relationship with him. And I have to be honest, as an abuse survivor myself, none of this stuff surprises me. And I think a lot of people who have endured trauma and abuse and violence at the hands of men or just at the hands of people in general can say this with confidence that they are never surprised or shocked when they hear these things because it is more common than you think. It's the reason why that conversation on the internet about would you pick the bear over the man, why these conversations are being had because so many women have experienced this type of violence. It's very sad. And I am someone who really stresses the importance of not blaming the victims for the simple fact that the justice system never works really in the favor of someone going through these things. It's very rare that people are prosecuted for putting their hands on people, for abusing people, whether it's sexual or physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. It is very, very, very lost in the system when it pertains to protecting women. And I'm not saying that it never happens, but it's very uncommon. Being that I am an abuse survivor and have experienced sexual abuse as a child, I learned this very young. I went through the motions of going to court as a child, and you don't understand the fear it instilled in me because I was so afraid of facing my abuser. But knowing the importance of trying to advocate for myself super young, it was a very traumatic experience, I have to be honest. And what's really sad about the experience that I went through was months and months and months of going to court and talking to therapists and talking to different people, that the person who had hurt me really was never prosecuted, really never had to take accountability for their crimes. And when you're a child who experiences this abuse and then also had to go to court for the abuse, it is a very disheartening experience to find out that, one, you're not believed in the eyes of the law a lot of the times because there's no proof a lot of the times when this happens. And two, you feel like, wow, people can really get away with hurting people. So I think for me, what it naturally did in my life was it made me kind of accept that that was the fate of the decisions that people would make when they hurt me, which is kind of sad. So although I experienced abuse super young and I was able to identify what that looked like, that doesn't make me any more confident that it wouldn't happen again in a different way. I never experienced sexual abuse again because I was able to discern that type of behavior. But I had dated a person when I was younger who had some issues, and I was not able to identify at that age that those issues would manifest into that person being violent towards me. I never really spoke on the fact that he was violent towards me because I had learned, again, super young, that women are not believed, and that when you speak out against someone who is violent towards you, that there needs to be some sort of proof. And even when there is proof, a lot of the times they're still not even really prosecuted for it. You are never too good, too smart, too anything to possibly be a victim of this. I think a lot of people like to victim blame because they think that people are stupid or childish or immature, and that's the reason why they experience the abuse that they did. But the truth is, smart, intelligent, well-rounded people get abused every day. And it's really important to not victim blame because a lot of the times you do not see it coming. I think that there are signs of these behaviors in people, but not always do you think that those signs are going to manifest into that person hurting you. And I'm going to kind of go through some of the things, some of the warning signs of a person who could possibly do these things to you. Extreme jealousy, possessiveness, a bad temper, someone who is cruel to animals, verbal abuse, forced sex, or they disregard their partner's unwillingness to have it. They sabotage birth control methods. They blame the victim of anything bad that happens. They control all the finances. They demean the victim either privately or publicly. They harass victims at work, and they can possess extremely controlling behavior. These are things that are signs of someone who could be abusive. Now, what's interesting is not always are these signs super out there and outward. Like sometimes you can take someone being, possessive as sexy. I know for me, when I was younger, and this is why, age gap relationships or dating seriously when you're young can be harmful, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But when I was younger, I used to think that a man being extremely jealous or possessive was a sexy quality because it made me feel wanted and desired. I loved that my boyfriend was gonna go through hell to make sure that nobody would talk or look at me. Like, it would turn me on. Now, as an adult who has learned what that manifests into, I don't like possessive or jealous people. I think that if you are an emotionally intelligent person and you love yourself, you are going to understand that you have value and hold value in someone's life, and you don't need to prove it by being jealous or possessive. But when you're young, you can sometimes think that that's an attractive quality. And this is why it is important that we get better with age and we learn from our experiences. I learned after dealing with this particular person who was once violent with me, which we'll get into what he did. I think it's important that once you see what this person is capable of, that you leave when you can. And I'm not saying it's always easy, but it is never in your best interest to wait it out or to give this person grace, because we can still feel for the people who do this, because a lot of the times perpetrators and abusers were once the abused, and that's where they learned this behavior from. But that doesn't mean we have to nurture or coddle them in their issues. We have to learn to love ourselves enough to say, you know what, this is no longer for me, and I need to get out when I can. My particular abuser was someone who loved me down, girl. When I tell you this man was in love with me down bad, he never had a girlfriend before me, and I was his first girlfriend. He spoiled me rotten, and there were so many things that I really enjoyed about that relationship. But a couple of signs that I noticed in the beginning was he was extremely jealous. At the time, I was super young. I still had Snapchat on my phone. And I remember I got a Snapchat from a boy that I was in high school with who I never had a crush on. We just all had Snapchats. And you know how you would send one photo to everybody in your Snapchat and your phone? That was kind of what happened. And I opened it when I was with the guy I was dating, and it was a very harmless Snapchat. It was like a kid being like, what's going on? And he had his tongue out. And I remember the guy that I was dating had this like Jekyll and Hyde type of moment where he was like, who's that? Like, what's that about? And I'm like, oh, it's just some kid that I, go to school with. He was like, block him. Like, I don't want, that happening. And he kind of was like normal about it. But then a couple seconds later, he got so angry and heated that he literally punched a hole in his bedroom door. Literally. Like his fist went through the door over somebody Snapchatting me. And I remember at the time, it scared me a little bit because I've never seen someone care that much. Like previous to me dating this kid, I only dated guys that barely liked me. I know, sad, right? But like I dated guys who genuinely would not even care if a man even looked at me. So this was new for me. I was young, I was impressionable. I had no idea what this meant. Did it scare me? Yes. But then a few minutes later, I was like, damn, that's kind of attractive. Like he got so angry that somebody, Snapchatted me. And now as an adult, that behavior would very much bother me. And I would never speak to someone again if they got so jealous that they punched a hole in a door. At the time, I stayed. I didn't take an issue with it. And it manifested into, I want to say a year from then, we got into a little disagreement in his vehicle, and I was yelling at him, and he kept turning up the volume on the stereo. And I thought that was so disrespectful because I'm like, I'm talking, I'm trying to get my point across. And I kept like yelling louder because he kept turning the music up, and I kept turning it down. So I finally like hit the power button to like turn off the radio altogether, and he takes his hand and pushes my head against the window of the car and holds my head there. Like literally takes my head and shoves it into the window and just holds my head there. Guys, that was it for me. That was when I knew, okay, I don't want to be with this person anymore. Did I leave that day? No, I didn't. I had to like really think of my exit plan because anytime I ever tried to leave him, he would like threaten to hurt himself or like just do really horrible things, which is what abusers do. Like they always try to make you feel sorry for them whenever you want to leave them. And they try to like threaten you by saying, I'll find you, I'll blow you up, I won't let you go to work, and this and that. And it's very scary, but thankfully, like he found someone else to bother, and that was my saving grace. He ended up cheating on me with like a girl he worked with, and that was his newest victim. So sorry to her, but she kind of saved me. There are a couple things that I've learned from being in that dynamic. One being, there is a reason why I think I stayed. And it was because, number one, abuse felt normal to me. Although I was not abused in my home growing up, because I had endured sexual abuse as a child, I just started thinking, okay, maybe this is just what men do. Maybe they're just so broken that they can either be unkind or hurt you, and it's their way of being like, releasing that stress. So abuse can feel normal to people, and that is why they stay. Another reason why people stay in bad relationships, and I know for me, it had to do with like an attachment situation. I felt very attached to that person, and I was afraid of what my life would look like without them. I think a lot of people also stay in bad relationships because of shame and low self-esteem. Also, a lot of the times abusers prevent you from leaving. That was another reason. Like a lot of people I was noticing online that were like kind of victim blaming Cassie, which we're going to get into in a second. They kept saying, well, why didn't she leave? Hello, did you guys see the video? It literally was her trying to leave. Abusers don't let you just leave. They don't let you just leave. And even if you do leave, maybe monetarily, they do find you a lot of the times, or they try to make your life living hell. And sometimes it's just easier to appease the person that is hurting you versus not. Also, a lot of people stay in these situations because of financial concerns. I don't really know the Cassie and Diddy situation, but I'm sure that you're with a man for 10 years and the age gap, it was so significant. She met him when she was 19. I believe he was 37 or 36. That is a significant age gap, and it's inappropriate. And I take great issue with these particular age gap relationships for the simple fact that this is a young, impressionable woman who is just starting her womanhood. Just starting. And this is a grown-ass man. And I'm not judging everyone and anyone in age gap relationships because sometimes they work. But I do think it's important to note that our frontal lobe does not fully develop until we're 25. It's very obvious to me. It's obvious to me because I am 26. And who I was at 20, 21, 22, 23, although I was very smart and intelligent and ahead of my time, I was not where I'm at today, and you never will be. You're going to get wiser with age if you allow yourself to. Experience when it pertains to life and people and finances and being well read and just going through the motions of becoming an adult, you are going to see yourself develop in ways that you don't even expect. I thought I knew everything at 22. I now realize I knew nothing. And that's okay. In knowing that, it is very interesting to me to see men in their late 30s, 40s, 50s pursuing women that are 19, 20, 21, 22. It's weird to me. And I'm not saying in all cases, but in a lot of cases, there is something that they find enticing about it because of the fact that they can control this young woman. It is a manipulation tactic. And I even went as far as to look up the ages of women that experience the highest rate of partner violence and sexual assault, and they said it's between the ages of 16 and 24. So between the ages of 16 and 24 is the highest rate of people, of women who experience domestic violence and assault. And again, it had me thinking again of the frontal lobe situation. Now, I'm not blaming a woman's mentality for the reason that they experience this, but what I'm saying is this. A lot of the times when we are younger, we don't see the signs. We don't know what to look for. And we are young, impressionable, and more trusting. The abuser will always be the one at fault. But there has to be advice that I can provide you guys today that can at least help you identify someone like this in the future and also to advocate for yourself. How to advocate for yourself in life and to be a woman who rises from the ashes of whether you've experienced domestic violence or abuse already or you're trying to avoid it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's 100% avoidable because it's not. You could be walking the street tomorrow, leave Target, and somebody could assault you. Okay? That can happen. But a lot of the times when women are abused, it's in relationships. So I want to help you advocate for yourself. So a couple of things that I think have helped me in my life, because I'm going to speak specifically from my own experiences. The first thing you want to do is be so rooted in your purpose. The reason why is because when we keep ourselves busy and we keep ourselves wrapped up in healthy distractions, we don't have time to be sulking and involving ourselves in relationships with people who are problematic or who have issues. I think that it's very respectable and honorable to accept people for who they are, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. Being that I am in a healthy, well-rounded state in my life right now, I will not accept a man at this point in my life who has severe mental health issues. I know that that sounds harsh, but the reason I will not accept it is because I did at one point, and look at where it got me. Another way to advocate for yourself is to have a healthy support system around you. Not everyone is going to have family who is going to be that healthy support. So I would say find healthy support. Maybe attend a church. Maybe try to involve yourself in hobbies and activities with great people. Surrounding yourself with like-minded women and friends. Having a healthy bubble around you. It is a lot harder for an abuser to abuse you when you have people in your life who love and care for you. When you are a solo dolo person just kind of going through life and you don't have a healthy family or friends supporting you, you are going to be a target for people who like to do this to women. Also, it's important to become educated on the differences between love and abuse. I know for me, I did not know the difference for the longest time. Like I said to you guys, when I was younger, I did not understand that possessiveness and jealousy was an issue. I also didn't understand that somebody having a bad temper was an issue. I thought, oh, it's normal to be angry sometimes. And you know what? Sometimes it is. But if it manifests into abuse and it being like really poor emotional regulatory skills, it's important to bow out. Adios, bud. get your life together. Also, like a man being mean to his mother and to his sister and to people in his life, like that's also a huge red flag to me. So when I go on dates with guys, I always ask them what their relationship is with their mom and their family. And, it's important to see how they speak about these people and the women in their lives, because that really shows you how this particular person feels about women as a whole. And if they're more gentle and respectable and honorable and give the props to the women in their life, that is a good sign. What I learned from seeing this whole Cassie and Diddy thing happen is how these things don't trigger me the way they used to. I think back in the day, I used to be so triggered by seeing things that either reminded me of my own life or would make me feel a type of way of how I handled certain situations. But I think now I've really healed myself, because now I really do view it as educational. A lot of people were upset that this video was going around, and although I respect Cassie's privacy and I think that it's really traumatic for her to have to relive it in this way, I think it's important for certain people to see this. A lot of people victim blame and say things like, well, until I see proof, I don't believe it. I am a woman believer. Do I think that some women lie or embellish when it pertains to abuse for financial gain or whatever? Do I think that happens sometimes? Maybe. Do I think that that's the majority? No. And because I don't think that that's the majority, I will always believe women. I will always believe someone who details in specifics their abuse. And the reason that I take issue with age gap relationships like Cassie and Diddy's, which was, I believe a 17-year one, is because he knows better. He's a grown man. And she didn't. So to blame her is very odd to me, because she is just scratching the surface of becoming a woman. And he probably promised her a lot of wonderful things for her career in music. And to have a grown man approach you in that way, sometimes it actually makes you feel good, because you're like, wow, this is someone who's been living, who knows the business, who understands. And you can get so wrapped up in being in the hands of someone like that you trust them and you believe them and you respect them. And what do when they are abusers? They use that power to hurt you. And I take issue when I know for a fact that a man purposefully seeks younger women. I never said that I have an issue with age gap relationships that happened harmoniously and align, but if a man is purposefully seeking younger women only, that tells me a lot about that person. And it's that they believe that young women are more controllable, that they are more impressionable. And I have even asked guys that I've dated in the past, because there was a guy that I spoke to one time who told me that I was the oldest he was willing to date. And this was back when I was 24. He said this to me. And I thought that was a very alarming statement. I said, excuse me, because I believe he was 30. And he said, yeah, because usually women that are 25 and up have experienced so much trauma and have gone through so much in life that they're just not free spirited, and they just don't want to live life and just be free and whatever. I don't even remember exactly what he said, but he said something so stupid. And what that to me translated to was young women are easier to lie to and possess. That's what it said to me. So obviously I never spoke to him again. Know that. And keep in mind that whenever I develop my own thoughts and opinions on these subjects, it's because of what I've went through. It's because of the things that I've seen my friends go through. To know that I have friends that have experienced brutal domestic violence, and I know this for a fact, and I've seen it, these conversations need to be had. These conversations need to be had. Even though they are uncomfortable, even though they are hard to discuss, I think that the best way to have these conversations is to teach women how to be independent and to be thinking for themselves and to advocate for themselves and to surround themselves with like-minded people who have not only also experienced hardship, but have been able to rise from it. There is something so beautiful about being able to look up to someone who has endured so much trauma and abuse and still lives a beautiful life. I saw something years and years and years ago. I don't know if it was in a book or whatever, but I remember reading the abuse that Oprah had went through, and to have known that she had became like a billionaire and a maven for women. And I'm not going to get into like the negative things about Oprah at this point, because at the time I didn't know that. But I remember thinking, oh my God, there is hope for women who have experienced sexual abuse or trauma or domestic violence, that we can turn out okay. What a beautiful thing to see. It literally was something that was in front of me. And I want to be that person for you guys. I am not too smart and too good and too successful to go through those things. I am a regular woman just like you. And guess what? You can be independent, smart, successful, and wonderful and still go through these things and still be a target. But guess what else? You can also identify these things early so you can at least avoid most of these things. A lot of this is avoidable. It isn't always, but a lot of it is. Getting therapeutic help is also important, and I think that's a great way to advocate for yourself. And stop blaming yourself. You didn't know what you didn't know. I don't look back at my experiences and do the shoulda, woulda, coulda dance. For a really long time, I used to blame myself because I would say, well, why did I let that happen? And why did I allow that person to do that to me? You want to know something? When you are getting abused by a person who you trust, love, and respect, it's confusing when they do something to you. It feels like you got hit by a bus. And I have asked my friends and people that I've spoken to who have been abused what they did when their abuse happened to them, and they all said the same thing. I was so shocked that I just took it. I just took it. And that's exactly what I did, because it was so unfathomable that somebody could do this. And a lot of the times people earn your trust and earn your respect before they hurt you. So again, how to rise from these situations is to advocate for yourself, is to unlearn unhealthy patterns, is to reparent yourself, is to stick up for people who this happens to, and to believe women who say that this is happening to them, to be a safe space for yourself and for others. I had this conversation on my Instagram, and I'll kind of conclude with this today. I brought up that I was going to be speaking about this subject on my Instagram, and I had brought up the age gap situation, and some women were very supportive. Actually, most of the women were very supportive, but I had a few in my DMs who had said, like, you shouldn't judge age gap relationships. Like, you don't know what what they went through, and you don't know, and not everything is predatory and this and that. And it's like, no, you're right. Not everything is. So why are you taking what I'm saying personally? Not always when people speak is it an all or nothing mindset. But the truth is this. A lot of the times it is that way. And for the simple fact that it's a great number of people who have been in these relationships similar to Cassie and Diddy, where there was a huge power struggle, there was an age difference that was inappropriate. There is something to be said about the age, the abuse, and the power. I think that they all coincide. Do I think that if she was closer to his age, that he would still do the things he did? Maybe. He is an abuser after all. But I do think that abusers do this to younger women because they know younger women are more likely to stay and endure the beating a little longer than a woman who is seasoned. That doesn't mean that women that are seasoned don't get abused. That doesn't mean that women who have experienced life don't get abused. I just think that when you get older, you become more discerning. You are able to identify abuse a little bit earlier. And usually you have your own something. You have your own motion that you're able to leave with the clothes on your back and possibly money in your pockets, more so than a person who is young and doesn't have much yet. And you don't have to agree with me, but because I have seen it is why I speak on it. When I was abused, I was a child and that person was an adult. That is why I feel the way I feel about these things. I will always stand on that hill. I'm proud to stand on it. I will always advocate for women, and anything and everything I do is to help those who are trying to evolve, grow, and be in a safe, loving environment for themselves. This is all about becoming happier, better, smarter, and just overall more discerning. I hope that you guys got something from this episode. I think it's a really beautiful thing seeing women come together and talk about these subjects. And women that have endured violence at the hands of men, just know you are not alone. Please seek help if you are in that situation currently. There are definitely ways that you can get yourself out. And I am praying for all of those who have experienced that. And I promise you that on the other side of this abuse is victory. You can have a beautiful life too. And I am living proof of that. And so is Cassie. This woman has a beautiful husband and children. And I am so happy for her. I really am. And I hope that she's doing okay. I love you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know it was all over the place. I had a lot to discuss today. And yeah, we will talk next Tuesday. Bye, everyone.